What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for January 30th, 2023. We finally got some content out of the Star Citizen studios this week. Some of that content was about 3.19, and those features are looking pretty cool, but 3.18, well, they kind of shared that it's going to be a bit more of a slow burn down. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And if this is your first Week in Review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, put it into one video, and share some of my opinions about it. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike, every day but Monday, so I can get this video out to you guys. And you guys have been coming to the Twitch channel, saying hello a lot more lately. Thank you so much for doing that. It's been really, really awesome. But with that said, we have a lot to get through for the first time in a long time. Let's jump into some patch notes. And with that, we had 3 patches this week, but none of them are lettered. They used to go to double letters, but now it's just build numbers. So I'm going to call them the Monday patch, the Tuesday patch, and the Thursday patch. So for the Monday patch, we had, well, feature updates that say if reinforcements don't leave the ship, you should now see them still counted as remaining on the missions, so you can finish those missions. And also, very important, you now need to unequip an item from a ship in order to put it on another ship. There's no UI to tell you this. I was confused when it happened to me. For bug fixes, there's another huge change, sort of a long-term persistence style thing. If you clear your crime stat after escaping prison, you will now still have a mission on you. I'm not 100% sure I like this personally because, well, the bounty hunter system hasn't changed yet, where there's not just a god marker on you that anybody can find you. And it's kind of a broken feeling about being a criminal. It's almost too easy to find players. And also it's kind of too easy to find out that players are in a place where you can't get to them. There's like so much wrong with the system right now that making this change feels a little bit premature. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Then for the Tuesday patch, they moved the prison kiosks to sell your items and gems at into the caves, basically, and into each cave. And they were having a ton of ganking at the exit location, and they feel that, I think, spreading these locations out will spread the ganking out a little bit. So it's still going to happen, but it should happen quite a bit less. They also re-enabled the progression form for racing. So you're now going to have to go from the easiest race down to the hardest instead of being able to access all of them like you did through the entire PTU phase. For bug fixes, a number of good fixes here. If you haven't been doing bunkers, they fixed some counter issues with those, and as well, miners should be able to use consumables on their prospector and mole. For the Thursday patch, well, every quarter they've been adding the previous quarter's ships to the in-game shops so you can buy them. It's been a while since we've been in 3.17 for a long time, and, well, they missed a couple here. So the Scorpius and the Hull A are not on the list, but someone told them about the Scorpius on Spectrum. I'll let them know about the Hull A on Discord or something like that. What's really exciting about this is a lot of the ships that are making it in are really interesting, really unique, or really useful. I mean, everybody can use a C8R, I think, in anything that they do in the game. For bug fixes, a lot of fixes are coming for the ROC. I will probably be taking it out this week on my live stream, as I tried last week, and I came across all the issues that were fixed here and made some issue council reports. So thank you guys for contributing to those. They also fixed claiming ships, setting it back to factory settings, which honestly I wish wasn't a bug. I think it would create more like loss and struggle in the game and make it more interesting. And they fixed the inability to split stacks in the inventory as well. Now we got a Squadron 42 monthly report as well. There's a lot in this report related to Squadron 42 exclusively. As this is a Star Citizen channel and Squadron 42 is nowhere in sight, I typically like to take these out, pull the information that could influence Star Citizen in any way, and today we have 2 things. I'm going to start out with AI features, and they have AI medics that can pick up down peers. Not sure if that includes players or not. They are also working on a non-human character, obviously a Banu, a Xian, or something like that. Then for vehicle features, well, we're getting a lot more insight on what this team has been up to since they're nearly 100% focused on Squadron 42. Quantum travel rework seems to be nearly done. We've heard a lot about it. We haven't seen much since CitizenCon. Also, the aiming system really isn't interesting here that they're pointing out, as it needs an entirely new pip system as well. I know there's issues with the pips not being entirely accurate, so maybe this is the reasoning behind doing this. Then there's the obvious MFD update that's been ongoing for a very long time. And then lastly, more work on control surfaces. If you don't know what that is, it's what's going to make Star Citizen atmospheric flying feel more sim-like. Essentially, when you don't need your thrusters to hold you up, your wings will. And when you do need your thrusters, they'll fire and be available for you. So not super sim, but sim-like is how I will describe it. But those were the only really two things that were in the monthly report related to Star Citizen. If you guys are interested in the Squadron 42 side of things, link will be in the description. I, for one, am very excited to share this part of the show with you, the video updates. It's been so long, it's been like 6 weeks, something like that, and we had an Inside Star Citizen titled Loreville Revisited, but they start out the show with a 319 Derelicts featurette from the Montreal team, and they start out explaining the goals of the work they're doing for 319 and why.
I think we can improve the speed to create those because they are really big location. We need to have a lot of artists working on those because it's really a huge amount of work to work on those one, and we want to create 100 of them everywhere on different planets and moons.
Adding more of the because we have OCs, so dressing them up immediately instead of hand placing all the rocks, the foliage, and all the visual elements separately by hand. We should make actually nicer modules that are already pre-assembled and most of the stuff is already contained in it. So that way we can deploy it, spend a bit more time on detailing, just an extra pass, an extra level of depth to the art.
When I first started the show, I was thinking, why are you guys doing derelicts? They've done enough of these. It should be enough. Move on to other things. I'm really excited with the work from the Montreal team, and I really want to see them do something new. But they are doing what they need to do to scale this up to a Star Citizen released scale, and then they'll probably move on to those things. And then they share a new idea that can help create even more variation for these vehicles in the near future.
We really set out to add different variations of age to our ships. So we have the freshly crashed ships, the older ones that the planet overgrown over, and we have the very derelicts as just a skeleton of the ship that's remaining. But really just the frame of the actual ship that's just abandoned and rusted out.
Personally, I think this is a great idea, and I am very much looking forward to seeing it in-game and in action and being oh, this is a really old or this is a really new crash. It's a very good feeling. They're going in the right direction here. I love this. I think it's really cool. And then lastly, there's a feature that is, I think, something that has a ton of potential. But when?
And I'm really excited about the derelict habs that we'll be adding to them. We're looking at a library of habs to create these little settlements.
We create those library because we want to reuse all those habs on different ship and create the different stories and depth about why that ship is there and who is going to live around.
We have interiors. We have some that is just for sheltering from the sun, from the harsh conditions of the planet. We have some that's just for sleeping. Oh, there's some that have little bars, little setups inside. People can eat, can meet up. Some other ones are just for electricity generation. We have solar panels on some of them.
I really hope you guys were paying attention there. Solar panels, windmills, wires, all sorts of things that are going to be used by what? The resource management system that's been ongoing and will be worked on for a very long time. And what does that mean? That the potential of these locations are not going to be realized for a very long time. As long-term backers, I think we know what to expect there. What's it going to be? It's going to be missions, very basic missions with AI that barely interact, and maybe some loot containers or a delivery box to pick up. That's about it. They're going to continue to do this for years to come, is what it feels like, at least for this entire year, most likely. So as hard as they push these locations, as hard as they push this from a visual standpoint, don't forget what it's actually going to be. Set those expectations correctly, because CIG is doing everything they possibly can to make those expectations a little bit blurry. And yeah, I think the potential, again, for Star Citizen is massively insane. But calm that potential down, calm those expectations down, because again, these are going to look cool visually, and you're maybe going to get the opportunity to do some really cool LARPing style gameplay there for players, but you're not going to have the opportunity of having the game drive the experience enough just yet. But these dressings on some cool gameplay, I mean, not much more I can ask for there. Another great job by the Montreal team. More from the Montreal team is the Loreville update. So we're getting to that part of the featurette, and this is more of a visual feature than anything. The city is looking really great, even from now, where it's like, it's a work in progress update that we're seeing. I think the style of Loreville is many people's favorite in the Star Citizen community. Unfortunately, the business practices of the family are pretty tough to support, but I do want to touch on a couple things that they said in the episode, and the first being an update that we have had at the other cities for a while now.
We're adding more landing pads, especially on the building rooftops. They create opportunities for gameplay, for pickup missions, and for the future of building interiors as well, or just simple mission types of stuff to do on the rooftops.
I would say nothing really special here. We've seen these, we know what to expect there. Delivery missions at the most, similar to the derelicts as well, with the potential of the interior being realized at a later date, which obviously they're not talking about much at all. And then they shared a major update into the way they changed the look of the city.
The city is quite expanded, so it's extending much further in terms of like the industrial areas that we're adding to the outreach of the city, the outskirts. They feel like they have a purpose. They have like quarries, they have like the pipelines, they have like industry or manufacturing. The lead up to the city, it feels functional. There's like smokestacks, activity going on with cranes, and it makes like a fun layout.
Now, I think this is all really fun and cool, but they talk a lot about feeling a certain way and how the location feels real. I'm tired of the game design not informing the artist how to make it feel real and interactable and immersive. It's more the artist just going, it looks interactive, immersive, and real. But it isn't. And that's just one of those things where, man, it looks so cool, but it leaves so much to be desired, I think, and that's kind of frustrating. And for Star Citizen Live this week, it was titled All About Alpha 318. And personally, the first clip that we have here has it all. It's got comedy, pain, sadness, and extremely interesting information in just a few seconds.
It happens. It's when you're building something that's never been built before, and you're doing it in a way that's never been used to build it. How do you estimate? How long it's going to take? It's
trial and fire.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, is coming into such a difficult release. It was quite interesting because it allowed me to see a lot of the breaking points and where we need to reinforce our production processes and our development processes. So it's kind of a, let's say the silver lining is now I got tons of idea of what we can improve, and we've already been discussing with the production team on how to fix many of the breaking points that happened.
First, the main guy, I think his name is Guillaume. He's now the development director on Star Citizen, and why this matters is he's from the Montreal office, and he's not this guy. So they're clearly not just making derelicts in Montreal anymore. They're really making Star Citizen, and from my perspective, it seems like they're really gearing up for the Montreal studio to be the PU studio, and the UK studio to be a lot of the Squadron 42 stuff. It seems like they're really gearing up here for that Montreal to take a much, much larger role on the production of Star Citizen. We've seen it through a few episodes now. Character teams and also, the teams that are working on PES are there, and it's very interesting to see. The thing that I find funny is they're excusing their inability to estimate timelines because they've never done this before. Nobody's ever done this before. But they don't excuse the fact that they keep sharing those timelines publicly with the community, right? And it's one of those things that, like, you expect us to act differently when you do the same thing every year and expect a different result from yourselves and from us. It's hilarious. I found this to be like pure comedy gold. Next, Jared asked Todd how PES is really changed the way they develop the game.
Now we're starting to look at, okay, how does this change, missions? How can we create like beacons? How can we clean up the world and everything? Now, Chris has been talking about this for a while, but now some of our dev teams can actually breathe now, and we can start working towards this. So whether it be like creating bins that you can basically throw away and then that deletes items from the world, or even, if a big event happens and then ship's wreckage are there, and now you can go and salvage that. Like, I think those are some of the interesting things that will arise, but then I think it'll really change the way that we're doing missions mostly.
But also, I think that there's what we don't grasp just yet as far as an effect on the design teams is the fact that you get free persistence on items would allow gameplay loops that are built just by an object existing, right? So if I can, like currently, if I add an item to a player ship, it's not necessarily going to persist because it gets cleaned up, recycled, whatever. But now that it persists, you could actually like imagine gameplay loops where you attach a beacon marker on a ship and that stays with it until it's found, right? Allowing you to track the ship. And that's just free because you get persistence of all entities, and even in shards, right? So you could actually, you find a ship abandoned in the game world, but it has a tracker on it, but you don't have the tool to find it. So all of that stuff will sort of become naturally and influence I think, mission design, prop design stuff, and modulate how we build the game world. Like, I really see all these discoveries will show up once we actually release it to more players.
There's some big things mentioned here, beacons, and for me specifically, like the way the teams are bogged down by the work that they had to do to get PES running, and now that they could breathe, they can start developing within this environment. That's very exciting to hear. It's what we need to hear, right? It's what we need to have happen, is they're getting through the tough stuff, and then they're able to utilize the new feature and make the game more fun. We've seen that happen with many things over the years, but these are more foundational features for what Star Citizen Released would look like, where the old tech that we've heard about for many, many years, all in the past, really utilized just the game to be fun in a little vacuum, but not be the real game. So that's really exciting. And then next, we talk about limitations of PES.
What, if any, trash rules, garbage rules, cleanup rules exist in 3.18?
So we have, I don't know what Chris Bolte calls it, but it's basically like cleanup entities, and it's
the density manager.
Density manager. So thank you. But it basically regulates the density of a certain item, and it's per class, whether it be weapons or cargo or armor, so on and so forth. It's basically per class in a certain radius. So that radius could be 5 meters, that radius could be 30 meters. Like, it really depends on how many are there. And then once it hits that upper threshold, then things will start being cleaned up and removed, but it won't go past. Meaning, let's say somebody, like, Ben was talking about, where somebody drops a C2 of luggage or of cargo in an area. Well, it might be that only 20 cargo boxes can be there. Well, it's going to clean up everything except for those 20 cargo boxes. And then from there, if somebody throws in another one, then it'll remove one, and then it'll just leave. And it should be removing the oldest one.
And true or false, I hear this rumor occasionally inside. Has it ever been discussed, a janitor or a garbage person profession?
True. And in fact, we had this discussion basically with we've got some Montreal programmers, so we just had that discussion about them working on it and basically cleaning up the entity class or allowing players to clean it up. Now, it could be used for, garbage, but at the same time, it could be an incinerator. It could be, some other function, so it's basically, it'll be a generic entity that will clean stuff up and remove stuff from the world, but it'll allow us to use it in multiple different ways.
For me, this tells me a lot of all this PES's revolutionary talk is more what we usually get from them, from a back-end perspective, from a game dev perspective, not from a player-facing perspective. From a player-facing perspective, it's doing what every other game does. When there's too many entities in an area, clean them up, right? And it's going to look very rigid and things are just going to disappear in front of your face, and it's not really good. The other aspect is that they do want to create solutions to try to avoid that and have players go and clean it up themselves and things like that. And also the fact that the items that they want to use for that could be utilized for like other missions and stuff. So that's really cool. For me, this one really interesting thing is a short clip from a much longer discussion about the repair tool. But if you saw SaltEMike Reacts on Star Citizen Live this week, this is what the title was all about, like the honesty aspect.
Now, Todd's not going to like me, but I'm going to say it anyway. So there are some ship bugs that have not been fixed because you could just reset, right? And so by changing the reset into a repair, that will only repair your playing character, then we want to make sure that we can prioritize fixing ship bugs where ship become unrepairable or unflyable or things like that, so that these bugs can be surfaced, and then our development director can come in and prioritize these issues because they affect players on the live systems, and we can't have the argument that, oh, we'll just get them to reset.
Bam! Being open about ignoring actual issues because you could just use the repair tool, why should we bother fixing it, is a very kind of showing the general bad practices of the company just live in front of the whole audience. And I think that that's really powerful. And I do like that Benoit knew it was not the right thing to do, and he still did it anyway. And I find that to be really a great thing. You can look at it from the perspective of, whoa, this is bad, this is how the company works. But I look at it from the perspective of somebody who's trying to change that. Calling them out in front of all of us, which the Montreal team has done multiple times now, I think is a really healthy thing, and it's a really good thing because it will kick them in the butt and get them in gear. Now, because of this new reset tool, there's some things that people were really upset about.
No, I know there are some other technical limitations to some of the items that people have been using reset to recover, like subscriber items and stuff that are lost. So this version that's rolling out with 3.18 is not the final solution to all that stuff.
Yeah. For subscriber items specifically, there's a lot of ongoing discussions about how to treat them more as an entitlement you can sort of restore, right? But that design is still ongoing, of course, and we'll iterate on that reset. But for now, the main objective we have with the reset tool is really to get you to keep playing the game.
For me, it's okay to lose your subscriber items, period. But it's really okay to lose them in the game that you're currently playing. It's 3.18. It's not Star Citizen 1.0. It's not the released game. So if we lose them in the game now, no big deal. There'll be a wipe eventually. You'll get them back. It's irrelevant. But and if you honestly believe that a priority should be this by anybody in the development studio at all, I can't help you here. I think you're just dead wrong, and you are not buying into Star Citizen for the right reasons. The priority needs to be to make the game fun, and then they can come back and prioritize your pretty little red suit that was $90 that you paid for. It's not that big of a deal. There's so many more important things to prioritize. I agree. I understand where the frustration comes from, but I have no idea why we're freaking out now about the new tool preventing you from getting your subscriber items back. Like, who cares? And then the next question was a when question.
Benoit, I know we're almost out of time with you. I want to make sure I get this question. You poked Todd a little bit about the ship bugs. I'm going to poke you about Wave 2. We've been on Wave 1 for what seems to be a while now, 4 weeks and stuff like this.
Yeah, 4 weeks, a month.
Is Wave 2 still? I understand that you have some hand in why we're not at Wave 2.
So a couple of things, right? So just so you guys know, when we decide to go to another wave, there has to be a sort of a gain, because we want to keep your attention when we're testing on the public test universe. And there's a series of tech changes that have been necessary, that have showed up during the Christmas break, which, to be honest, was very beneficial, because we let servers and shards run during the break, and we discovered a lot of issues like shards growing out of size. That breaks the loading process, prevents that shard from being loaded again, and that has a lot of impact on the infrastructure that Ahmed is running in the cloud. And so basically, we've been looking at these issues, and we've devised solutions for them. But we want to make sure they're in place before we hit Wave 2.
What I get from that is they're not going to Wave 2 because it's expensive, and there's no point if they aren't going to make any gains from opening it to more people. So it's only going to cause the same problems unless they add these features in to fix the problems of having more people. That's the long and short of it. It's nothing crazy here. That's why Wave 2 is taking so long, and I'm glad they shared that with us. So it sets the expectations. They are saying that it's kind of coming soon and things like that, but what does soon mean with them? Who knows? The next thing that's up is a little discussion, very little discussion, about crafting.
A lot of folks heralded it as like the first kind of crafting in Star Citizen. Is that an accurate description? Did we just dip our toe into crafting there?
It is. I mean, it is. But again, Chris has been talking about it for quite a while, and for our team, it was just, all right. We've got some sort of resource, and then we can spawn different items. So it is. It is foundational. It is stuff that we want to build on. It's just. There's one or two other priorities that we need to knock out first, and then, we will be moving on to that in the future.
And for me, I need to know what those priorities are, because I think stepping crafting up and doing more with it is very, very important to the future of Star Citizens in the short term being fun. So getting whatever those two things out of the way, I want to know what they are. I want to follow the progress on those, because I want to know when you're working on crafting soon. That's where I want to see open development. I don't care about a lot of the things. Those two features, I need to know about those. And then lastly, there's been something that has been plaguing Spectrum for a really long time now, and it's like these PVE versus PVE threads. And Todd addresses it, basically.
I mean, I think the criminals are going to do what they want to do, and so then the question is, are you a good Samaritan? Are you willing to go out there and answer this? But we always want to create opportunities for players, and then how they decide to use them, and it's really going to be up to them how we meld them. Obviously, in the future for service beacons, we do want to have like star ratings or those types of things, so you can start seeing, okay, somebody's got like a 2 on it.
Right.
Criminals are going to do what they want to do. And by him saying that, he's saying, and we're not going to stop them from doing it. Obviously, there's some things that they want to do so you can make a decision on whether or not to interact with that player, like the reputation system in the service beacons, but they are not. You cannot steer the large, broad game design of Star Citizen as a Spectrum user. Stop thinking that you can. You can discuss individual features and say, hey, this is fun or this is not fun. And they will listen to you and they will make changes based off that feedback. But you cannot come in here and say there should be no PvP in Star Citizen. That's literally what people are saying on Spectrum. You have a problem. And your problem is you bought the game for the wrong reasons. And now you're finding out what the game is and you don't like it. Sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I think people do say that to me as well. I have a hard time dealing with the fact of like what the game is now versus what it could or should be. But I know what the broad idea of what Star Citizen was. I knew what I was getting into. You guys clearly didn't. And then finally, for other updates, we got a very short one. Sneak Peek is an A2 bomb that never had its art, so now it's finally in game. You can always buy it, but it didn't have any art assets in the game. And then a widescreen update where Sylvan just posted a ton of fixes for widescreens after sharing that nobody had widescreens, and that's why none of them were getting fixed like a few weeks back. So this guy's the man. His team's awesome. They're just killing it over there, and that's great. But guys, with that said, that's it for Week in Review this week. A long episode, tons of stuff. It's we're back, baby. It feels good. So thank you for watching. Please leave a like on this. It was obviously a lot more to put together than I've been used to over the last 6 weeks. And yeah, thank you so much for last week, you guys. Tons of comments, tons of likes. It really helped push the video out there. Keep doing that stuff. It's really helping me. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. I'll see you guys next week, and I'll see you in my live stream. Again, like all of you guys have been coming by. Thanks again for that.